Her name was Adeobi, but everyone simply called her Ada. She was in her late 30s. Ada radiated grace and warmth, her presence effortlessly commanding respect and affection. She lived in a stunning duplex in the affluent Lekki area of Lagos, alongside her lovely husband, Christopher, and their 2 children, Amarachi and Chidi. Their marriage was a story many envied, a true example of a blissful union. Peaceful, harmonious, and loving, their marriage seemed like something out of a fairy tale. 7 years in marriage, and not once had they raised their voices in anger or had a serious disagreement. Christopher was the epitome of a perfect husband. Thoughtful, gentle, and incredibly hardworking. He worked tirelessly to provide for his family, ensuring they had the finest of everything. Their children, Amarachi and Chidi, were living the definition of a privileged lifestyle. They attended the most prestigious school in Lekki, they had access to the best toys, and were surrounded by the comforts of wealth. Ada, in turn, embraced her role as the ideal wife. She was the real definition of Odogwu wife. Graceful and stylish. She carried herself with confidence, sporting the latest fashion and jewelry, and enjoying the finest experiences life had to offer. During holidays, she would take the children on lavish vacations to destinations like Dubai, Maldives, and Paris, creating cherished memories of luxury and adventure. Christopher's affection for Ada knew no bounds. He often returned home with thoughtful gifts for both her and their children, always showering them with love and attention. In turn, Ada poured her heart into creating a warm, welcoming home, a true sanctuary where love, peace, and happiness thrived. Their life together was idyllic, a perfect blend of partnership, mutual respect, and shared dreams. Ada had first met Christopher at a wedding, 8 years ago through a mutual friend. From the moment she saw him, his charismatic presence and magnetic charm drew her in. There was an undeniable connection between them, a spark that neither could ignore. Over the next few months, their friendship blossomed into something deeper, and within a year, they were standing hand in hand, exchanging vows as husband and wife. Their life together was a harmonious blend of love, laughter, and dreams fulfilled. Ada's heart overflowed with joy as they built a family filled with warmth and love. Their children became the center of their world, Amarachi, their spirited 6-year-old daughter, whose sharp wit and curiosity knew no bounds, and Chidi, their playful and curious 4-year-old son, whose endless questions and energy always kept the household lively. Christopher's business ventures thrived, providing the family with a comfortable and prosperous lifestyle. While his days were often spent in meetings and strategizing, he always made time for his family, ensuring they were supported and loved in every way possible. Ada, choosing to focus on her role as a homemaker, took immense pride in creating a nurturing environment. Her home was a sanctuary, a place where laughter echoed through the rooms, where the smell of freshly cooked meals and the warmth of family bonded them all together. Together, they built a life of meaning, filled with shared dreams and a future they envisioned as boundless, where love was the foundation of everything they held dear. One fateful Saturday, Christopher hurriedly left for a meeting. He forgot his phone on the kitchen counter. As Ada wiped down the countertops, her eyes briefly landed on the device. She picked it up absent-mindedly, intending to place it on his bedside table as usual. The screen flickered to life, revealing a notification. It was a message from an unfamiliar number. The shipment will arrive by 2 a.m. Awaiting further instructions. Her breath caught in her throat, and her pulse quickened. Ada felt a surge of unease as her fingers hesitated. It wasn't like her to pry, but something about the message felt wrong and dangerous even. Unable to resist the temptation, she unlocked the phone and began scrolling. At first, the photos seemed harmless, a collection of family memories, vacations, birthdays, and everyday moments. But then, she found a hidden folder labeled projects. She wondered what kind of project it was, because her husband had never told her anything related to that. Her heart pounded harder. What was Christopher involved in? Her mind raced with questions as she clicked to open the folder, each image revealing more than she anticipated. Suspense gripped her, tightening around her chest with each photo. Inside the folder were photos that didn't make sense. Christopher in meetings with stern-faced men she didn't recognize. Packages wrapped in suspicious materials. Stacks of cash in various currencies. Ada felt her stomach churn. Was this some kind of mistake? Perhaps Christopher was helping a friend. He had always been kind and willing to assist others. But as she delved deeper, the evidence became undeniable. Christopher wasn't just a successful businessman. He was involved in something evil. Ada put the phone down, her hands trembling. She couldn't breathe. The man she had loved and trusted for 7 years was hiding something dark. An hour after, Christopher returned home with his usual charm and warm smile. Can you imagine? I forgot my phone because I was in a hurry to meet up with some of my business clients, he said with a calm tone. Ada looked at him, not knowing what to say but trying so hard not to show something was wrong. Little did he know that she had gone through his phone. She decided not to confront him immediately. She needed time to process what she had seen and to confirm it too. This could probably be a mix-up, she thought in her heart. That night, she lay beside him in bed, her mind racing, unable to sleep. Christopher, oblivious, slept soundly. Days turned into weeks, and Ada couldn't shake what she had discovered. She started noticing things she had overlooked before. His cryptic phone calls, the nights he came home late, the sudden trips he took. Her curiosity became a compulsion. She began snooping through his belongings. What she found confirmed her worst fears. Christopher was deeply involved in illegal activities, money laundering, drug trafficking, and fraud. To her shock. How can such a graceful man be into such dark things, she thought to herself as tears flowed freely from her eyes. Ada felt trapped and unsafe living with a criminal. She thought of what to do. Who could she talk to? Her family adored Christopher because of how he spent lavishly on them. Her friends often commented on how perfect her life seemed. How will she tell them all these? One night, she overheard Christopher on the phone. He was giving instructions about a shipment. His tone was cold, calculated. Ada's blood ran cold. Ada knew she couldn't sit without doing anything. She began documenting everything, photos, recording his secret conversations, messages, bank statements. She needed proof, though she wasn't sure yet what she would do with it. She also started observing Christopher closely, looking for any signs that he suspected her. But she could not find any. Christopher continued to shower her and the kids with love, completely unaware of her inner turmoil. Ada's fear turned to determination when she discovered Christopher's next deal. She overheard his conversation one night. He thought she was asleep. He was talking about a massive deal, involving dangerous people and a shipment containing illegal weapons, that could ruin countless lives. She knew she couldn't stay silent any longer. She reached out to an old friend, Uche, who worked in law enforcement. Without revealing too much, she asked for advice on handling a difficult situation. Uche's advice was clear: you can't handle this alone. Whatever it is, you need to be smart and cautious. As Ada dug deeper, she uncovered a network of corruption involving politicians, business tycoons, and even law enforcement officials. Christopher wasn't just a participant, he was a leader. The weight of her discovery threatened to crush her, but she knew she had to protect her children. Ada decided to act. She began secretly moving money into an account under her name, preparing for the possibility of leaving. She also started gathering evidence to present to the authorities. But Christopher wasn't oblivious. He began noticing changes in his wife. Her sudden mood swings, her distant attitude. He asked severally if she was okay, and Ada reassured him she was okay. One evening, as the children slept, Ada sat in the dimly lit living room, her heart heavy. The weight of her discovery was too much to bear. She clutched the evidence she had collected. A small folder containing printouts of Christopher's incriminating documents and screenshots of his phone's contents. She glanced at the clock. It was almost midnight. Christopher was still out, supposedly at a business meeting. The perfect facade he maintained during the day was beginning to crack under her watchful eyes. She thought about Amarachi and Chidi. They adored their father, blissfully unaware of the monster lurking beneath his charming exterior. Ada knew she had to act, but the risks terrified her. The next morning, Ada made a decision. She would leave, but not before ensuring her children's safety and exposing Christopher's crimes. Her first step was to reach out to Uche again. This time, she revealed more details, careful to keep her identity anonymous. Uche was alarmed but promised to help, advising Ada to stay vigilant and avoid alerting Christopher. Ada also began researching protective measures for herself and her children. She contacted a trusted lawyer, explaining that she wanted to secure her finances discreetly. Christopher began to notice Ada's subtle changes. She was no longer the cheerful, doting wife he knew. She seemed distracted and distant. One evening, as they sat together watching TV, he turned to her. "Ada, are you okay? You've been different lately." Ada forced a smile. "I'm fine, Chris. Just tired. The kids have been keeping me on my toes. If you need extra help, you know I can get for you," he said, gazing at her. "It is nothing I can't handle," Ada said with a steady voice. Christopher didn't push further, but his gaze lingered on her, as though trying to read her mind. Weeks passed, and Ada continued to build her case against Christopher. But her secret efforts came to a head one evening when Christopher came home earlier than expected. He found her in the study, hurriedly shutting down her laptop. "What are you doing?" he asked, his tone calm but probing. Ada's heart raced. "Nothing important. Just sorting out some family pictures." Christopher walked closer, his eyes narrowing. "You've been acting strange. Is there something you're not telling me?" She shook her head, avoiding his gaze. "It's nothing, Chris. Just stress." But Christopher wasn't convinced. He grabbed her wrist, forcing her to look at him. "Ada, if there's something I need to know, now's the time to tell me." She pulled away, her mind racing for an excuse. "Chris, you're scaring me. I told you, it's nothing." He studied her for a moment before stepping back. "I hope so," he said, his voice cold. "Because secrets have a way of destroying families." That night, Ada knew she had to accelerate her plans. She waited until Christopher fell asleep, then retrieved her folder of evidence and hid it in the children's room, beneath a loose floorboard. She spent the following days preparing for the worst, ensuring her children's documents were in order and stashing away enough cash for an emergency. One afternoon, while cleaning Christopher's study, Ada found something that chilled her to the bone: a gun. It was hidden in a drawer beneath stacks of documents. Her hands trembled as she held it. She had never imagined her husband capable of violence, but the evidence was mounting. That evening, Christopher confronted her again, this time more forcefully. "Ada, I'm tired of these games. What are you hiding from me?" She maintained her composure, shaking her head. "Chris, I don't know what you're talking about." But Christopher's patience was wearing thin. "If I find out you've been snooping into things that don't concern you," he trailed off, the threat clear. Ada waited for the perfect opportunity. One night, Christopher received a call and left the house in a hurry. She knew it was her chance. Quickly, she gathered the children, their essentials, and the folder of evidence. She had already arranged a safe house through Uche, who had connected her with a protective unit. As they drove away, Ada couldn't help but feel a mix of relief and terror. She glanced at her children in the back seat. "We're going on a little adventure," she told them, forcing a smile. Hours later, Christopher returned home to find an empty house. Furious, he called Ada repeatedly, but she didn't answer. He searched their usual spots, relatives' houses, friends' homes, but found no trace of them. Meanwhile, Ada worked with Uche to hand over the evidence to the authorities. It wasn't long before Christopher's operations came under investigation. Months later, Ada and her children were living in a quiet town, far from Lagos. The children were adjusting well, and Ada had started a small business to support them. Christopher's empire crumbled under the weight of the investigation. He was eventually arrested, his crimes laid bare for the world to see. Ada, though heartbroken, found solace in knowing she had done the right thing. She had protected her children and stood against evil, even when it came from the man she loved. Do you think Ada did the right thing? Please drop your thoughts in the comment section.